The owasp cheat sheet series stands out for its focus on practical advice that most developers can actually use right away, like solid approaches to authentication, stopping cross-site scripting, and handling secrets, rather than ideal standards few teams could follow. Over 90 of these guides exist, and they stay tightly linked to related projects, so new sheets get created or old ones get sharpened whenever gaps show up in secure coding requirements. The collection itself moved from an old wiki to a GitHub setup for easier upkeep, and it serves as the everyday reference developers grab when turning risk awareness into real controls. If you're building web apps, the owasp Top 10 offers the fastest way to spot the biggest security risks that trip up teams everywhere. Their fresh 2025 list puts broken access control and software supply chain failures right at the top, showing how even basic oversights can lead to major breaches. Companies lean on it not as a scanner, but as a shared starting point to shift their whole development culture towards safer code from day one. It sits at the head of a practical path that leads into stricter requirements, coding guides, and verification tools once you're ready to go deeper. The OWASP Web Security Testing Guide stands out for its clever system of labeling every test scenario with codes like WSTG Info 02, which shift across editions so external tools and docs can always reference the exact right version instead of drifting. It grew from early checklists in 2004 into today's community-driven framework that penetration testers rely on worldwide for web apps and services. What makes it especially useful is how it slots into the bigger OWASP picture as the go-to verification step, pulling requirements from one project and risk language from another to keep manual testing consistent and practical. You know what's really striking about the National Vulnerability Database? In April 2026, it quietly stopped trying to fully analyze every reported security flaw because the volume had surged so dramatically, up around 263% from 2020 to 2025. NIST now reserves the deep work like severity scores, weakness mappings, and product details for a narrower set of high-priority issues tied to government systems or already active exploits, while the rest still appear but often sit with minimal enrichment and a low priority tag. That shift means anyone pulling from the database can no longer count on complete NIST analysis for every entry and may need to cross-check vendor notes or other feeds instead. At its core, the NVD remains the main U.S. government hub for standardized vulnerability data, feeding everything from automated scanners to compliance tools with CVE descriptions, CVSS calculators, and product dictionaries that let security teams match real-world software against known problems. The change highlights how even foundational infrastructure has to adapt when threats scale this fast, and it leaves you wondering how the backlog and future priorities will play out. If you're curious about what software mistakes keep causing real-world trouble, the numbers from vulnerability records since 2020 are surprisingly revealing. Cross-site scripting leads by a huge margin with over 33,000 cases, yet the real shock comes from how severity clusters elsewhere. SQL injection ranks second but packs an 86% high or critical punch, while out-of-bounds writes and use-after-free errors hover near 80% severe, often turning into remote code execution or crashes. Access control gaps have surged dramatically too, with missing authorization checks climbing from a few hundred early on to thousands lately, and path traversal showing similar acceleration. These patterns highlight that volume alone doesn't tell the whole story. Memory safety bugs and authorization failures deliver outsized risk, even when they appear less often. Trends also show yearly spikes that track the rise of certain attack surfaces, like web apps and native dependencies, reminding us that many issues arrive through libraries rather than fresh code. Paying attention to both frequency and severity density gives a practical edge for focusing training, reviews, and tools where they matter most.